It's the Practical Prayer Podcast.
Are we backstage?
We're backstage now with Dr. Bill and Dr. Carol.
That sounds good.
Right? You're Dr. Carol now.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what it said.
Well, don't be too enthusiastic about it.
Well, I told you it was a highly personal, accomplishment or
Should I not have mentioned it?
No, it's not that. It's like titles, and I was thinking about it this morning. And okay, so this is not egotistic, right? But I got a few. And I absolutely respect the work that I have done to earn every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that the graduation, the work was the most important thing. Absolutely the most important thing. The graduation was a good, fun thing. But if I use titles, it just conjures up things, preconceived notions in people's minds that most of the time aren't correct. So I just don't use them, But I know I have them, and I'm very proud of what I have done all of my life, through all of them. And when it's convenient and I need to use them, I will. Sometimes.
Excuse me. Let me whip out my letters.
Well, sometimes you got to use it to level the playing field, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it goes. It's unfortunate, but better to have them than not. Sometimes.
Too true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. And the letters, I went off to the Affiliated New Thought Network retreat last week, and everybody was calling each other Reverend Doctor. And it's noteworthy when somebody's just a Reverend.
Yeah, not even.
It doesn't have a Reverend or a Doctor. It's like,
Yeah, and so I got these new letters, right? But I don't know what they are yet. Like, I gotta wait till the thing comes in the mail. Is it gonna come to you? They used to call them sheepskins, but
it's a certificate. Yeah, and don't tell anybody. I made a mistake. I suspect that your sheepskin was in Unity Village with me last week.
Oh, okay.
And I neglected to pursue it, and the people holding on to it neglected to distribute them. So,
eventually, I suppose it will get to me.
Would you like an electronic copy of your diploma?
I'm not doing
so
anything.
So you can be
that
really
urgent.
into the new millennium here.
Well, yeah, but I want the other one so it can match. I can put it next to its brothers and sisters in the frame that matches the other. All the frames match. It's very important that the frames and the matting match.
Okay.
So it looks nice. But what are the letters I get?
Well, you earned a Doctor of Spiritual Studies.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Will it have it on there?
I can check. I will actually be able to find out what your letters are with a quick email.
Okay. Well.
And perhaps at my 4:00 meeting this afternoon, I will be able to ascertain that.
Well, if you remember, that would be fine. We'll get to it at some point.
Tagging me if I remember.
Well, people were very excited for me, and I'm grateful for that. But there was every time I've done something in the past, it was to qualify for something, be in alignment for a job or whatever. And none of that comes with this. Like, there's no job waiting to be like, here's a job, but you need this. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it for me. And maybe if something down the road happens that I need it for, well, I got it, but, and that's not to belittle it, because I spent a lot of time with, I spent a lot of Monday nights with you, like trying my best not to go to sleep, because that's
my classes were after your bedtime.
Yeah, oh my God, because my uptime starts between 4:30 and 5, so, and I don't do naps, so by the time I got to your classes, I was just like, and talking about prayer, I was doing prayers like you never heard, just like, God, please, I can't miss a thing here. So yeah, I am delighted. I find delight in the journey that people don't even have any idea.
Yeah, you've reminded me of the Buddhist saying, which is, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
That's
So
right.
same thing for you with this degree. It's like the only thing that's changed is you now have a degree.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And you know that you have the degree. And for
yes.
you, my guess is the most important part is that you can stop studying for the degree. You can stop correcting the answers on your exam. You can stop
You
editing
know,
your thesis.
it's so funny. You know what my daughter said? Don't be fooled. She's working on the next one. She already got a plan, and I haven't talked to her. She already got a plan for the next one. So don't y'all get all excited about this.
Is she
You know,
right?
maybe,
Okay.
maybe I got a
I
thought.
don't need to know.
Well, I
Okay.
have a thought. But I haven't seen necessarily the degree listed. So but I know you can create stuff. So, but I don't know. We'll see.
I guess you're now a student at the Emerson Theological Institute, where you can create your own course of study,
Hmm.
because it's a school where the answer is yes, and you get to work out the question. So there's sometimes
Yep.
some jockeying for position on the question. I should point out to the folks who are listening in on FaceTube and UBook that this is the Practical Prayer Podcast. Did I get that right? The Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show. And we're going to be recording an episode of the podcast. I think it's going to be like episode number 70 or 72 or some such. And if you have a question, or if you have a comment, or if there's something that you'd like us to talk about or include in a prayer, you can go ahead and put it in the comments, or you can you come find me at bethelight.com, b-the-light.com, and put a suggestion in over there. And I'm not even going to say what you said that the topic of the podcast is going to be today. I want to get into the podcast and then have the dramatic reveal so that everybody gets to hear it at the same moment.
It's dramatic.
It's dramatic. Anything else before we start the podcast?
Nope, I'm ready.
All right, so here goes the lovely low-key music one more time, and we're back. It's the Practical Prayer Podcast.
Let's go.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol Lawrence here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And you came up with something that was mentioned at the Anton retreat that I then repeated that has hooked your attention and intrigued you that you want to talk about.
Yes. It hooked my attention because it's one of those subjects that it's like a showstopper, It's like it either intrigues you or pisses you off. That's
Maybe
the
both.
only, yeah, well, you know what? That's the only 2 responses I've ever gotten. So let me just say what it is. I am God. Now,
Sounds so arrogant.
it does. It does. If you just take it that way, it depends on how open-minded. For example, the first time I heard that was maybe, I want to say in the 70s or 80s, but certainly not after that. And Reverend Ike said it.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's just amazing anyway. And when he said that, I thought, well, and people got angry and all freaked out about it. And I said, well, let's see what he means by that. And so I started to study it, and it's like an amazingly freeing and wonderful concept that will put you, to me, light years ahead of where you are spiritually if you're willing to be open and to, just look at it objectively.
Okay, well, let's jump into the Wayback Machine, and you can maybe reflect upon or try and explain what you understood Reverend Ike to mean when he said, I am God in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah. Well, when it was a it was a brand new idea then. I understood it after. Let me use this analogy that is used right now, and it'll make more sense. You've heard that we are not a drop in the ocean. A little bit, excuse me, but we are the ocean in a drop.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
that,
poetic.
yeah, yeah, and that's just so beautiful because even though right now I may not feel like the ocean, or I may not feel like God, let me have all the attributes that God has and everything that God has. I do, but because of my being human, sometimes I'm not able to access it or release it or allow it to emerge or take center stage or whatever you want to call it. I'm still human,
Mm-hmm.
but in that, uh, there is still the option, the opportunity, the possibility that if I can calm myself down, I use that term a lot, calm my little self down and think and allow the ocean to flow, then there comes God. Then there is the God that I don't have in my human space. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I'm just trying to explain it. And it's wonderful because it's in you, it's in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
if I, yeah.
there's so much that you brought up, and so many different paths that we can go down. I'm I'm kind of interrupting so that you don't create four more, and I have to remember what they all are.
Yeah.
Uh, and the first one is fear, and the fear that gets kicked up by people imagining what is the next sentence, or what is the continuation of the sentence, I am God.
Mhm.
Is it, and you're not? I am God, and what does that mean? And there's all the implications of what that means that is what I think is stirring up all of the resistance to that. And that's okay, because it is a bold and way out on the leading edge statement to say, I am God. So now the second approach, we take it to principle, the New Thought principle, which is, this is unity. There's one. There's one creative power, one divine presence, one love that shares itself as all of its creation. There's one love that shares itself as all of its creation. And as part of that creation, the second step that we get to in a practical prayer is having identified that there is one. We identify that because there's one, I'm part of it. Carol is part of it. Everyone listening is part of it. Everyone is part of that one. Well, if the one is God, then I am part of God. So I am God in the sense that everything is God, and I have to be. That's the whole basis of the teaching. That's what we're talking about every week as we're doing this. So the essence we want to get back to is, what does that mean? Now, to arrogantly claim I am God, like there's no separation, I have all of that at my fingertips, seems like we're claiming something that might be bigger than we're entitled to. But again, that's the fear of the person who's hearing it. Maybe the fear of the person who's hearing it coming out of their own mouth, because it's a pretty intimidating thing to say.
But when I first heard it, of course, I was like, "What in the world is he's saying? He's saying he's God, and does he mean that he's now bigger and better?" And the very next second, I thought, "Well, suppose that's not what he's saying. Suppose he's to try to figure that out, because if you're can you possibly be that arrogant? Well, suppose you're not. So I want to know." And not being arrogant. He's just saying something that I need to, kind of break this up and see what this means. And when you says that we are the temple of the living God. That expresses that. So if you believe it, then let's go down that path and see what that means. Are you temple of the living God? This is a temple. God is in it. So you're just saying it a different way. Don't get all upset about it. Temples of God are within me, if you prefer to say it that way. And I think people even choke on that. Or have the principles of God, it's right there in Scripture. This is not a Bible study, but we go down that road, and is your authority, and a lot of people. And I always feel like this: if you're not right, God's big enough that we will be corrected.
Mm-hmm. The part that I want to get to is, and the notion is, a drop in the ocean, or the ocean in a drop, mm-hmm. And the model, the framework that we have is there's a raindrop, okay, and you're a raindrop, and as we're a raindrop, we're individualized, and we can tell because we're a drop falling from the sky and then into the ocean. When we get into the ocean, we become undifferentiated from the rest of the ocean. We are still everything that drop was, but there's no boundaries anymore. And so there's the drop in an ocean, the ocean in a drop, and the whole idea behind I am God is that there is no difference. There is no difference between the drop and the ocean. It is our perspective that makes it so. And the important part about I am God is that everything that is available and accessible anywhere is available and accessible to us. And it basically bumps up the teaching that we're doing to that next level. To really claim our truth, to really claim the power that we have and that we are, and be open to the grandeur that is the truth about us. Now, a lot of people want to shirk from our grandeur. It's like, well, I'm kind of God, I'm part of God, I have some God-type stuff, but, I'm not perfect, and and then ducking our goodness. And I am God, claiming that, really pushes us to our edge.
Exactly. Sometimes people like to make things more difficult. You know that. And I'm there every chance I get. And if you just, when I first heard this, the way the ocean in a drop in the ocean. And I looked at the bucket of water and I thought every single property that the ocean has is in this bucket. Every single molecule, whatever you're going to call it, that's in the whole ocean is in this little bucket. The same. And when I looked at it like that, I felt very powerful. That God is.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will talk some more about oceans and buckets and drops and God.
You can put practical prayer to work in your life, and Reverend Bill Marchiony can help. He is offering an online class that teaches you to create your own practical prayer in 5 weekly 1-hour sessions. The final hour brings your practical prayer together, anchored in live original music by a notable New Thought musician. Practical prayer is based on the most effective prayers found in religions and spiritual practices all over the world. Use it to deepen ever more fully into the truth of your spiritual nature. It's the core of a transformational spiritual practice that's simple, even if it's not always easy. Reverend Bill is also available for private spiritual counseling prayer sessions. Together, you'll lean into the challenges you've experienced in life and explore the transformation that's possible through practical prayer. You'll uncover old, hidden beliefs and uproot them to make way for the life of your dreams. Everything you need to know is on the website at b-v-light.com. That's b-v-light.com.
Before we come back, we're actually going to take a quick technical break right here. Robert Brzezinski, and so this is like stop tape in the live studio recording. Carol, we've been having a lot of dropout in the audio that's coming from your mic, and so missing some stuff. Are you recording locally?
Yes. So
Okay.
you want me to stop? I turned it on
No.
just in case you needed.
No, that's fine, but it's dropping in and out. And Robert, if you are available to jump in and help us troubleshoot, that would be wonderful.
I don't know what to tell you other than it appears to be coming somewhere on Carol's side of the equation. Because you're
Okay.
coming through clear, loud and clear. Commercials are coming through loud and clear. Videos, everything else. The only place we experience it seems to be in Carol's audio. I don't.
Okay.
And I
Is
don't.
Carol's audio as loud as the other audio?
It's a little quieter, but that's within normal parameters for your program. So Carol's
Okay.
always a little bit less.
What if I change the microphone to?
Can you get closer to it?
I can get closer to the mic.
Yes, folks, this is live TV for those that are watching on Facebook and YouTube.
Yep. This is what it looks like to make the sausage.
Okay. So is that better?
Now it's still dropping out.
Okay. Let me try the system.
And the dog soundtrack going at the same time, because what could be better?
Well, you know
Because it
what?
turns out that
I'm a dog
everybody in my
person,
neighborhood needs to walk a dog at the same time.
Okay. This is a different microphone. How does that sound?
A little tinny and far away, but you're not going in and out, or you haven't
Oh.
so far.
Okay. That. Okay.
Well, if it's recording into your local recording device, then it's probably something in the StreamYard software platform, as everybody who's listening on YouTube and Facebook really wants to hear.
So, so this is better, but it doesn't sound better.
Let's
Correct.
go with this, and we'll give it a try this time. And you got a local recording, so we'll be able to make it work. And everybody who is listening at home, hopefully, will be able to have filled in the blanks like I was about the pieces that Carol was saying during the previous part.
I was
So,
all
as we-
excited thinking it was working right this time.
As we say in the broadcast business, this is going to be a pickup on segment 2, and you're going to return with Welcome Back to the Practical Prayer Podcast, whenever you're ready.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol Lawrence here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And I am God,
And
and you are God, and we all have exactly the same claim on I am God. As big and bold and audacious and arrogant as that may sound.
but it does, after you study it for a while and think about it, it really doesn't sound all that big and audacious. It really doesn't. Because we, and this is not the scripture that I would use to kick off this conversation, but probably sneaks in a little bit, that we're created in the image of God. So you want to look at that word image beyond the visual image, but image in every respect. Then there it is. And it's like God doesn't have any problem with it, so why do we?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and it's the notion of hiding our light under a bushel.
yeah.
If we are that bright light of God's love, then anything that we're doing to diminish that is actually working against God and our own God nature. It has no place. Hiding the truth or ducking from it, doesn't serve anyone. So it's just I am God takes it way out to the edge, and hopefully pushes people's buttons a little bit.
Oh, it does. I'm sure it does. Check the website later on to see what you invited people to leave their comments. I'll bet they will.
Yeah, and as I was getting read in on this, last week or so, the notion that I came down to is that this is very much a shift from Newtonian physics to quantum physics, because in Newtonian physics it's all about particles and waves and things that are separate and distinct and individualized interacting together. And we think about it like some kind of a cosmic pinball machine with pieces bumping into each other and moving away from each other and orbiting each other and that. And that's a very effective way of describing what's going on in the universe. And quantum physics is telling us that there is something deeper going on. The Newtonian physics is part of the quantum physics, and the quantum physics goes all the way to the core. That's basically the oneness. Everything started as an idea, and that idea is now manifesting as energy and as matter. And it's the way that it's being arranged and the way that it's being experienced is all a matter of consciousness. And so that's what quantum physics is telling us. In Newtonian physics, if you take and I love the visual, if you have a picture, a photograph of a rose, and you cut it in half, you will have one picture that's a half a rose and another one that's the other half of the rose. And then you cut one of those in half, you get a quarter of a rose, and you keep on and going and going and going. And you can divvy it up into lots of little pieces. This is the magic of the jigsaw puzzle. That's how the jigsaw puzzle works. If, on the other hand, the film that you're starting with is not a photographic print, it's a holographic print. You see the image of the rose in the holograph, and a hologram is an interference pattern. So it's how the light interacts to make an image. And if you cut a hologram of a rose in half, you wind up with two holograms of a rose. They're just smaller. And if you cut one of those in half, you wind up with another hologram or two holograms of a rose. The full picture, it's just smaller. And the notion of I am God really applies to that. We are the totality of God. It's not like I have access to some of the God qualities because of the way that I'm living my human life. We are all of that divine presence in a small piece. But all of it is accessible to us. And it's a different way of thinking about it. And that sort of thing just makes me want to go out and get myself a hologram to cut into pieces.
I was thinking about, I edit videos a lot, and I don't know, it's one piece that does whatever it does. And no matter how I chop it up, it's still the same. It'll still show up if I chop it in 10 pieces or just one. It'd be exactly the same. Mostly it's text or something like that. And to me, that's really, really comforting because when I'm going through some stuff of whatever it is, I mean, that's just life. I'm going through life right now. And I feel overwhelmed. I just sit and think about, does God get overwhelmed? So since God is within me, it must be Carol being overwhelmed. Let me step back and let God step forward. And I know it's not a dual thing, because it's hard to explain it like this, but I absolutely acknowledge that God is within me. And I can allow or not allow the expression of God in me. You agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, you can acknowledge or not acknowledge it. It's going to be there.
It's
So you
going to
can't
be
say,
there, but
there's no God essence inside of me. It's like, yes, there is.
I'll say like I'm not thinking God right now, or God,
Yeah.
I'm just getting all in God's way, and I just know it at this point what to do with it. It doesn't mean that it's easy by any means, but I've already gotten that threshold. That's what it is. So I don't have to pray and wait for God and hope for God or measure up for God to intervene. I just need to chill a minute and say, what is God doing here right now? that I'm getting in the way of, or, hiding the light, or however you want to express it. And it's just a really powerful belief to have in your belief system. And you got to watch out, because it's going to change your life in a really powerful way. We have a lot of stuff in our belief systems, and you have one of those classes coming up. I saw it. What the spiritual adventure classes?
The spiritual adventures. Yep, we're doing
Yeah,
spiritual
and
adventure workshops.
And one of them is about belief system. If I can work out anything in my schedule, I'm going to be there, because there really, I wish I could say I know it, but I'll work some things out. And your belief system, there's a lot of stuff in there that gets in the way, but also knowing that making God a part, God's presence, practicing the presence of God, making that a part of the belief system. Now the playing field's a little bit different. But you got, but you can't be afraid of it.
Yeah. We as individuals, as humans, have the ability to forget our divinity. We have the ability to duck it, hide from it, ignore it, pretend that it doesn't exist, and we are free to choose that. It doesn't change the nature of our divinity. We are that divine power and presence expressed in our own particular way. But when we deny it or forget it or ignore it, then we are able to live a life that seems like it's not connected with the infinite. And that's okay, because free choice is part of that divinity. That's part of our consciousness. We're able to believe in separation, in which case we experience separation, even though the only separation that exists is our belief in it.
I don't like pain. I
Okay.
don't like pain and struggle. So if you tell me that there's a way around it or through it, I'm all ears. And when I discovered New Thought and a lot of the principles that are taught in New Thought, I said, wait a minute, this will help me in a situation that I'm in or getting through, and it makes a whole lot more sense than me struggling, because me struggling is not working here. And it's painful, and I don't like that. So is there another way? And if you believe that in the omnipresence and the omnipotence, all power, God has all power, I'm not scared to pull on that, and say, what I'm going through is not God.
Well, it's all God, but not God in a way that you're enjoying it. And that's okay.
Okay, we'll let that, we'll say it your way.
All right. If anybody is entitled and empowered to say I am God, that means it has to mean that everything is God. So even the stuff that we don't like, which gets back to there's actually pain serves a very valuable purpose, as you have noticed. So if somebody is walking across the beach and the sun is particularly bright and the sand is particularly hot, then they'll go ow, and their body will tell them it's uncomfortable to be walking on the sand at this temperature. And I actually heard the story over the summer of somebody who had got second-degree burns on her feet from the sand. Well, I'm not sure exactly what the circumstances were, but I would guess that it wasn't a single step onto the sand, ouch, that's too hot, and then stepping back and wound up with second-degree burns. It was probably somebody who felt the pain, it's really hot, I've done this before, I'll be able to make it over to the beach chair. The purpose of the pain is to say, don't do that, or choose something different, or back up and get your flip-flops, or whatever the guidance is in that particular moment. The pain serves as a guidepost and a guardrail to keep us from going and doing things that are going to be damaging to our physical being, certainly, but also to our emotional body and our spiritual body. If I'm doing something that's cruel or mean to somebody else and I recognize it, it's because it makes me feel uncomfortable. I feel the pain of doing that, and then I get to do something different.
Okay.
I know you can't imagine me doing something mean, but up on this
Well,
pedestal, right? But I did spend an entire career in morning radio, where my job was making fun of people, and it was pretty slash and burn, mean-spirited humor. It was very funny, but I can't do it anymore because it's too painful for me to be a participant in any way, whether I'm telling the jokes or listening to the jokes or having them aimed at me or being able to aim them at somebody else. I can't play anymore.
This is going to take us to another broadcast, because I think we're because it's not protecting God. I'm not protecting God, but if God moves in me, as me, through my personality, then my personality can certainly reflect something that is less than the nature of God. Do you know? And I know, I think you and I kind of are on different sides of the street on that, which is okay, by the way. But I think that
If it's all
Carol,
God, then all of the destruction and all of the pain and all of the disease that's ever happened is God as well.
and that's where we probably would part company when it comes to that, because we have a free will, we have a nature, we have a personality. And I'm just talking about me, okay? I'm not going to do anything that's going to destroy the world or hurt anybody really badly, but I hope.
No current
But
plans
I,
anyway.
no, but I do, but I do have thoughts that are less than what I would like them to be. And when I step back from what I say is myself and say, what is the higher self in me? I see a different Carol. I make a different decision. So I do think that I can be at war with myself, in that regard, or maybe at war with spirit in a sense. But when God created me, he created me. This is me. And me is different than you and everybody else. But there is God. And I think our consciousness is as strong as we allow. We can decide when to step back. And you use the term ego a lot. I didn't use that, but I do now, because I'm just simply giving my lower nature a name, I suppose.
Okay. If you use the notion I am God, does that call you to be more fully present as your best self?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because I have a chair, that is my chair when I really need to stop myself, meditation and all that. And I will sit there and say, now, who is preeminent here? Especially when I'm going through some crap, right? Because I can be pretty headstrong at times and controlling in a lot of ways. Not intentionally bad, but it's just the way it is. That's just me. It's how I got here. That's how I was wired. I said God created me. I don't apologize for it, but it doesn't always work, and it's up to me to know that. And is this a God thing working in me, or is this a Carol, a nature of Carol ignoring the higher self, the more excellent way of doing things? And usually she chills. She chills.
Okay.
Like, I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Let's take another break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to do a prayer, and it's going to be about rocking our God self.
Okay.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcalled.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol Lawrence, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And the topic this week is I am God. A big, bold, audacious claim that is scary to a bunch of people and arrogant and off-putting to other people. And once we get on the inside of it and are able to claim the truth of our God nature and to wear that title of I am God without it being limiting for anybody else, without saying I am God and you're not, the Chevy Chase line, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not, I'm God and you're not. It's not a comparison. It is an acceptance and an ownership and a recognition of the truth of what we are. So let's do a prayer about that. And the prayer is not about being any more godlike than we are. Because if the truth of the matter is that I am God, and that is the case for each of us, we can't pray to be God. If it starts out being true, then the prayer is completely unnecessary. And if it's not true, then the prayer is not going to change it. But we can remind ourselves of that truth. We can remind ourselves of the truth of the nature of the universe. So let's take that into prayer and know that there is that one infinite creative power, that one divine presence, that one love that shares itself as and through and in all of its creation. Everything is that one sharing itself as its creation. We take it back to the beginning. There was darkness and void and God. Just God. God and nothing else. The rest of it was, see above, dark and void, empty. And then God said, let there be, and things began coming into being. The only thing that existed before they all came into being was God. In the story of the Big Bang, there's the singularity. One impossibly dense singularity that began expanding and exploding and recombining with itself to create everything that exists. It's all that one. Everything is that one. It's all the God of darkness and void. It is all the singularity of the Big Bang. It is all, we are all that one. Everything that exists everywhere is that one, shared in its own specific form. So there's no question about where we came from. Everyone listening to me, everyone within the sound of my voice, and everyone everywhere is an expression and unfolding a recombination of that divine God essence in specific and particular form. Everything is God's divine love expressed in its own way. We are each individualizations of that God essence. So when I say, I am God, I say that on behalf of myself and each one listening. I am God. And it must be true because there is nothing else. There is nothing but God. And to the degree that that awareness of our divinity, of our I am Godness, if the awareness of the authority and the power and the prestige and the influence and the presence that we are brings it more and more into our awareness, then it's serving its purpose. As we claim I am God, we get to step up to that next highest and best expression of our godliness, inviting in good and more good and more good to our experience and to the experience of everyone we come in contact with. It shows up in so many, many different ways. It shows up in our health and our vitality, our experience in this physical plane of being. It shows up in our experience of prosperity and sufficiency and enoughness in our lives. There is plenty. And as that divine presence, we are heirs to all of the good that we are willing to accept. The same thing applies to love. There is love and harmony and goodness and connection and depth available in every moment. And I claim it for each of us in whatever way is going to bring richness and joy and happiness and uplift into our lives. and in our creativity, the way that we are taking that divine creative power and channeling it to bring something new and wonderful into our experience. That's all happening now for each of us individually and all of us together. When we claim, I am God, we are taking ourselves to that higher place, knowing the truth of who and what we are, and allowing that divine creative process to create something new and wonderful as us, through us, with us, and for us. So we rock our I am Godness. We accept that mantle, and we invite the good to unfold in even more rich and wonderful ways. I'm grateful for all the good. I'm grateful for the willingness of each one to step into the truth of who we are. And I'm grateful to be able to speak this word and release it into that creative law that creates everything. And to know without any question whatsoever, it's now creating this. This good is underway now. This awareness is enhanced and uplifted now. And so I let it be. And so it is. Amen.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
And that, as they say, is a wrap of the Practical Prayer Podcast episode, I Am God.
I am God.
I am God.
Yeah.
Let's invite Reverend Brzezinski back in to join us for another episode of Ministers Talking Sound. See what I did there?
I see what you did there, yeah. I would have to say that there's something in Carol's microphone, because once we changed microphones, I didn't hear any dropouts.
Nope, I didn't either.
And I haven't had this experience on any other broadcasts I've done, so.
Could it be that, because I'm hearing static, right? And I don't hear, if I disconnect these earphones from the microphone, maybe, could that cause it? Because I got these other fancy things that I just haven't started using yet. Maybe I'll try them.
Oh, let's try the fancy things next week. Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
plugging something else into the microphone. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I'll do that. Yeah, because this, well, the only reason I didn't, because it had the wrong plug and I didn't have enough time to come up with something better. But we'll do it. We'll do it next week. But I guess we can test it before we get started.
Now perish the thought. Yes, we can test it before we start. I'm just a troublemaker. Yeah, we can definitely do that. So, and we derailed ourselves a little bit in the post-show conversation because normally we talk about what we talked about, and this is a really deep and rich topic. And actually, last week at the Anton retreat, where James Mellon was talking about this, Robert was there as well, and it's not the first time you've heard it.
No. I've heard it. James Mellon talked about it before. I don't remember if it was last year, but I've heard him speak about it. So I'm going to go look at the video and see him again this year and see what else he has to say.
Yep, a fun thing. And again, to the folks who are listening and watching on YouBook and FaceTube, if you have a question or a comment, you want us to do a prayer or an episode about something that's particularly close to your heart, you can put into the comments here. If you'd like to, or you can contact me through BeTheLight.com, be-the-light.com. And Whirlwind, an exercise in our divinity and technology. Hey, Robertson.
That sounds like a show right there, the divinity of technology.
Ministers Talking Sound. That's us.
Yes.
We'll do Friday afternoons instead of your usual one on Friday morning. So, Robert, since you are in the studio now, I'm going to let you play the closing because you get to choose whatever it is that you want to say about New Thought Media Network because we're enthusiastic fans and you're the president. You know what's going on.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
Well, you know more about what's going on than anybody else does. We'll put it that
Okay.
way.
Well then, so you want me to speak about what's going on, or you want me to pick a movie to get us out of here?
Pick a movie to get us out of here,
Okay.
which will also inspire you to put more movies into our studio.
Yes, you're right. But we're just going to use the say thank you video because that's the best one, and that's going to remind me I need to build a new thank you video.
Amen.
Here we go.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.